Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today's video is interesting one. Today's video is talking about Affliction Warlock in War Within Beta and how it might actually be in a lot of trouble due to a lot of bugs that were found over the past 24 to 48 hours because sims are now being, I guess, implemented on the back end. And there's been a lot of bugs that have been found. So today I want to talk about them, highlight this early on, so hopefully we can get some tuning if the bugs are fixed, and go from there and try and save Affliction, because it might need some serious saving in War Within looking at these bugs. If you guys have any weak cores or add-ons, Twitch, Discord links down below, you can get it for free. At the same time, the War Within beta spreadsheet is indeed now live on Patreon for those who want early access to it. The Warlock one, the tier 3 Felguard rank or higher, does indeed get that. It's also up to date with the most recent Helen builds. It changed for the past few days, all the codes and all that stuff for beta. If you want it, should be linked up here, as well as down below in the description of Patreon as well. And also, the MMO awards voting ends in a few days. If you guys would like to vote for that, I guess vote for me, really anybody. I am nominated for Content Creator of the Year. There's a link over here, as well as down below in the description for voting. And regardless, you know, I greatly appreciate all the support, guys. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so starting us off, I think the best way to go about this is to actually start off with like a bit of an Affliction single target opener here, and then have a damage breakdown we can look at, referencing abilities over the course of this video. When it comes to feedback and tuning and all that, just have a general, chart, I guess, like, breakdown to reference, right? So same Aff opener as always. Basically, I'm going to go into this. I am playing Siphon Life here. I would play AC in most settings, but AC is a nightmare test with on dummies. I am playing the single target build that's been played for the most part of beta, and we're going to go from there. So we're going to precast a Haunt into Unstable Affliction, Agony, Corruption, cast 2 Shadow Bolts for Shadow's Embrace, 1 and number 2, Singularity, I'm going to Soul Rot, Dark Glare, I'm going to Ascend with my Trinket, I'm going to pop my Malevolence. This Trinket was nerfed too, it might not even be worthwhile anymore, just heads up, I'm just still playing it because who knows. But dump Raptures here basically, on Oblivion about now. I'm going to lose Shadow's Embrace, but so on, so be it, is what it is. I'll stack it again, it's fine. Dump the remaining Raptures here when we're a PS and Soul Art window. And besides that, really just maintaining dots, not letting Wither fall in this setting, even though typically you're playing Absolute Corruption, refreshing your Haunt on cooldown, and just going from there, not overcapping on TC procs. I think Affliction in its current form is actually pretty solid when it comes to what I would venture to guess they want classes and specs to be tuned around roughly, like numerically, on beta. I could be wrong, it could be a bit higher than I think, but there are definitely classes that are tuned higher than us. I feel like Aff has been some weeks very strong in raid testing, but others, and I think just in general, pretty solid overall. It hasn't been too strong, hasn't been too weak for the most part. It's been just in a pretty good spot. We dump this Rapture here, this TC proc here. It's been just in a pretty good spot overall. And I think this version of Aff builds upon that further. But like I said, these bugs that have been found recently by those in the Lock Discord working on sims and all that, it's definitely more of a concern because, well, I mean, you'll see. So we'll go for another minute or two here, or a second or two actually, once this window ends for the most part, and we'll look at the actual breakdown. My Shadow's Embrace has fallen a bit here. It's a little annoying, but whatever. So we're gonna stop. I'll just stop here. It's fine. So this actual breakdown here is what I'm going to use. So we have Wither 18%, Rapture being 10. This is also playing Hellcaller. Things may vary a bit if you're playing Soul Harvester. I mean, they will, so on and so forth, right? Okay, so this breakdown, Wither being 18.5%. Wither's been ahead, like our main damage source, for a very long time when you're playing Hellcaller. It's been nerfed a decent bit over the past few weeks, so on and so forth. Rapture, Oblivion, Agony, Unstable Affliction, Blackened Soul, so on and so forth. Now, I do want to hit on a couple things here, like just feedback-wise, maybe some last-minute changes could come for quality of life stuff. But I think looking at this breakdown, one thing that sticks out to me is how low Unstable Affliction is compared to what it used to be. I've seen it around like 8% here. 9.2 is a little higher, but I feel like it's still not where it should be for being like our main dot that we can't really move around. I mean, we can move it, we can't spread more than 1, right? A bit of a buff to Unstable Affliction, putting around like the 13-ish% mark, I think could be more than fine. Which we'll get to in a minute here. We'll talk more about that. Putting it somewhere below Rapture, because spoilers ahead, Wither is incredibly bugged right now. but still enough where it feels relevant in single target. Because my Agony is beating it, my Oblivion's beating it, my Blackened Soul's basically going to beat it in second tier, and if you're playing Soul Harvester, Shadow Bolt's beating everything. This being our main, source of damage as far as dots are concerned, it feels like it could use some buffs here and there. So I wouldn't mind seeing a buff to Unstable Affliction to some extent. And to clarify, that buff, I don't think, I know I don't want it to be a buff to Perpetual Instability. This talent is, I don't think, very good. But I think some targeted buffs could be to Unstable Affliction, and go from there. A couple other things I want to hit on here too, and they both revolve around Infirmity for Affliction, both for PS and Vile Taint. Now we hit on the PS thing a few weeks ago. I want to hit on it again, because the way the Singularity has worked for a long time, you can see it here. The duration of Singularity for me is 13.6%. If I get more haste, that duration drops. It'll tick the same amount, but it'll drop. It'll become a shorter duration, sort of like you have more haste, here's a reward kind of thing, right? But the unfortunate part about that is that Infirmity, if you're playing Singularity, gives you a 10% damage increase taken on the target, because of how Infirmity works. So you don't really want that reduced duration on Singularity. Giving Singularity a set duration, like baseline 15 seconds or whatever it is more than fine. I mean, the haste reduction, I don't think anybody really cares about. It's been a cool thing in the past, but nobody really cares. And in general, I mean, it works a bit awkwardly with like Rapture windows and stuff too. It feels like it's a mechanic of times past when we had UAs or Spender. So making like Singularity a baseline duration would be awesome. Quality of life stuff. This current version might devalue haste a little bit. This interaction here, not a whole lot. It just feels awkward. It feels like a non-bow, a non-combo. That's what that word is. That needs to be looked at, I think, a bit. The other thing here with Infirmity is actually around Vile Taint. I'm gonna steal this one from Arson a bit, actually. If you watched this video, Arson mentioned on his stream I was watching a bit recently. He mentioned that as a solution to like the agonies being reapplied in AoE a bunch. Having like manually applied them between Vile Taints, he said that if Vile Taint, he would like it if Vile Taint applies Agony, the Agony's duration is doubled, or make it long enough where you can just maintain it with Vile Taint forever. I think actually you could do that. I think a great like way to change, you could change Infirmity. Like make the Vile Taint one actually just say, hey yo, when you cast Vile Taint, Agony's duration is doubled. You're still gonna play Singularity in single target. It's not going to make you want to play Vile Taint in single target, but it will give you an incentive to play Infirmity with Vile Taint in Mythic Plus. I'm not playing this with Vile Taint at all in M+. I'm playing Singularity and Infirmity, not Vile Taint. But if this made Vile Taint's like duration for Agony's double, Agony's duration baseline 18 seconds. Make it like 34. Enough. Make it 36. Who even cares, right? But if you made this buff Infirmity and give it a double Agony duration instead of giving it this stat count, or you can even leave the stat count on there. Who cares? That would be a massive quality life increase for Aff and Plus, and that would be huge. I know it's late into beta at this point, but I don't think it's a change. It's like too jarring or disruptive compared to what we've seen before, and just in general, it wouldn't change things up so much where like Aff's incredibly strong anymore. No, it'd just be better. It'd be nicer to play with and stuff. It'd be a bit interesting to see how it played with like Volatile Agony, but honestly, I don't think this is still fine in single target. It's still fine on bosses. At times, you're not gonna have Vile Taint to apply Agony depending when you cast it and stuff. They can be more than fine. I wouldn't care, honestly. I think having the permanent Agony in AoE would be much better. Essentially, permanent Agony would be a lot better in AoE. And realistically, I mean, you would still get value out of this if you're casting Vile Taint twice in a pack, right? So they'd be below 10 seconds. So that'd be nice. We'll see where that goes. Wanted to briefly suggest that the UA thing and both of the Infirmity changes. Now, there's another change that was made, I believe last week, we'll get to that in a minute here, where fixed an issue with Crescendo not working correctly checking if a target had UA, Corruption, or whether an Agony on them. Now, I don't know if this is actually an issue in the first place. Maybe it had been for a long time, I'm not sure, but the wording on Crescendo does not suggest it needs to all be on the same target. When Agony, Wither, and UA are active, that's all it says. It doesn't say active on the same target. Just literally active. So I can have one here, one there, one over there in Georgia, but as long as they're all active, TC can proc, right? The chance to proc TC. But the change they made in last week's build is now that if I have these two dots here active, say I have a bunch of mobs with Wither and Agony on them, and I have my UA over here for some reason, right? Or whatever. If I'm not hitting like this target here and such, like your Shadow Bolt and Drain Souls, right, give you a chance to get a proc. If I'm not hitting this target right here that has these 2 dots on it, basically the target has to have all 3 dots: Agony, Wither, and UA. If I have, you know, let's say UA not on this target for whatever reason, they're not all stacked, I'm hitting like this, whatever, it has to be on the same target. So when it comes to like spreading, or I guess stacking Shadow's Embrace and M+, right, with like Nightfall procs, whether it's Shadow Bolt based or whether it's, you know, Drain Soul based, even like this weekend, I was tab targeting mobs a little bit here and there, spreading Shadow's Embraces around with these Nightfall procs that I have. That's not a thing anymore because I have to have all my dots, or my Agony, my Wither, and my UA on the same target, and then be Shadow Bolting that target only. And while it might be nice spreading Shadow's Embraces around with Nightfall procs from Drain Soul and Shadow Bolt, I'm not going to do that if it makes me miss out on TC procs. Watch this. So no TC procs at all, right? Is a weak order for it here. When I move UA over here, start hitting this thing, we'll get a proc. So I'll start Shadow Bolting. I don't know how long it'll take. There's 1 bolt. It shouldn't take very long. There you go. There's your proc. But this will never happen anymore if you have, you know, not all 3 dots stacked on 1 target, and if you're not hitting that target. So let's say I even have these here, right? I can stack all 3 up here and do whatever. Let's say I'm over here, you know, spreading Shadow's Embrace. What's up? Over here, spreading Shadow's Embrace or doing Agony, Corruption stuff over here, right? If I'm Shadow Bolting this or doing whatever, I will never get a TC proc. They're all active on this target here, but I will never get a proc. I'm not hitting this 1 target with Shadow Bolt or Drain Soul. So quality of life wise, I don't love that change. I think it might have been made to like combat the weird like going infinite with TC procs and AoE. We can just put a weird ICD on it, which is not like, you know, super long enough we can't go infinite. But this is a weird change. I'm not a huge fan of it. It makes you not want to spread Nightfalls when it comes to like, or spread Shadow Bolts and Drain Souls for Nightfall when it comes to like M+ and AoE stuff. Very interesting change. Wouldn't mind seeing that reverted, or I guess tweaked, where you can still get procs if I have, you know, if I'm bolting other mobs, because there's not really, I don't think there's really any kind of like degen stuff there, but you know, that is that. To a similar extent, another bug here, Soul Harvester is not giving TC procs at all, actually. When you're hitting the same target, Soul Harvester is not giving any crescendo procs whatsoever. So we'll open up here very briefly and show you guys. UA, all this stuff here. We are indeed playing Oblivion. Wouldn't play it usually in this build, whatever. Not a perfect opener here, no big deal. But point being, we'll just pop off here and show you. There's our, you know, Succulent Souls or whatever. Not a perfect opener here at all, but like, you will not see a TC proc come in here. I'm hitting the same target. I am playing TC, but Soul Harvester is giving 0 TC procs currently at all. You just don't get them. So that's a bug. I think it popped up over the last few weeks. It might have been due to like the TC changes a few days ago. I'm not really sure. Either way, no procs here at all. So hopefully that's looked at as well, because it's a little awkward not having one of my main, you know, Rapture generating abilities. At the same time, this here, where's this at? Feast of Souls, yeah. Feast of Souls. So you do indeed have a chance to generate a soul shard. I believe it's 5%, Malakath told me, but the soul shard you generate is not always succulent, which is a weird terminology for a soul shard, but it's not a succulent soul shard every time. It'll give you, whenever it procs, basically it can give you a shard, but it won't always be succulent. So low proc chance. If you get a shard, hopefully you roll the succulent chance as well, but not always. So that needs to be looked at and adjusted, because the word guaranteed is indeed in that sentence. So yeah, basically like the UA buffs, double infirmity buffs, exchanges here and there, Feast of Souls, TC bugs. I think the last thing, very briefly, before we get into like the big bug, is that I think our capstones, like just in general, when it comes to like the actual tuning, aren't incredibly impactful. There's actually a change made to Sims recently, where I guess Oblivion was casting spells during the channel in Sims, and the fact that they, this is what I've been told, they changed the Sims to alter the cast sequencing, and it's once again not worth playing Oblivion, it looks like, as Hellcaller, for a handful of reasons. I mean, I'm not against not playing Oblivion either way. I like the Rapture playstyle, but if Oblivion is not worthwhile, Gambit's not worthwhile. You're probably playing Creeping Death, maybe into like Malignancy possibly, but you're missing out on a lot of things. You're really just playing Crescendo, Rapture, Malefic Touch, Soul Rot, Malign Omen. The highest simming build is playing Dark Harvest over Oblivion. You're playing an AoE talent, giving me 4% haste and crit when I cast my Soul Rot. You're playing this over perpetual instability because this talent's just not very good in the first place either, right? If this is not good, our capstones for the most part just feel pretty lackluster. I think it should still be Cascading Calamity. Just this weird reapplication thing on UA. Just make it Cascading Calamity. Give us the haste buff we can maintain. That'd be sick. I think this proc chance is like 1.2 per minute. Probably needs to be buffed. I think I don't mind Oblivion, but it doesn't feel like it's worth the 2 shard cost that it has. If I hit this button, I want it to nuke whatever I'm hitting, and the damage is like I believe 8%, give or take, like right around there. 9% overall. It's relatively awkward between like Oblivion being lackluster, Xavius being lackluster, and like I like Death's Embrace, but in the end, I mean, I don't know. It's like the question is like, what do you actually want to play capstone wise, which you are playing here, Death's Embrace. What do you want to play capstone wise besides this row here, like these 2 and Creeping Death? It feels sort of bad spending points in Familiar Tree, or it feels bad spending points. When you have 10 available in your capstone section of your tree, but only really playing 4 or 5 because most of them are undertuned. So hopefully some tuning comes to those, but I want to get into the main issue with Affliction, and that is the fact that Wither is incredibly bugged and doing way too much damage. Alrighty, so this is the part of the video that I want to be might spend a little more time on here, because these bugs are actually, they were found I think this week, a couple days ago, by people in the Lock Discord. Malakath, I believe, is working on Sims as well. People smarter than me, credit to them. And Blizzard tuned Wither, I believe 2 weeks ago, nerfing the ability by I think like 35%, something like that, which makes me think, like, no shade being thrown, I didn't know either, that these bugs aren't known to Blizzard, and they're tuning the abilities with the bugs actually being in place. So people might say don't report bugs because, oh, it's like getting nerfed or whatever. It's not what you want to report bugs, because number one, they're bugs, and number two, when Blizzard finds the bugs and they fix them, you get nerfed even worse, and half the time they don't buff you to compensate. Remember in I think it was 10.1, these were like OP. We reported them, they never got changed. Then Blizz fixed them, and we sucked for like 2 weeks straight till we got buffed again. This is the same case, but probably a lot worse. So we're gonna jump into this here. I'm gonna read off a DM that I was sent, because this is like 10 head stuff, and I'm just Florida man. But okay, so we have a handful of abilities here. So Seeds of Their Demise, and to clarify, this is all Hellcaller tree. Mark of, or Zalon's Ferocity is here, Zalon's Cruelty is here, Seeds of Their Demise is here, Mark of Xavius is here, Mark of Lawrence here. We'll talk about them all. So Seeds of Their Demise is increasing the damage of Blackened Soul by 30% due to Effect 3 being legacy code from previous iterations. So what I understand, this ability shouldn't be here, and this is buffing Blackened Soul damage by roughly 30% more than it should be. So this shouldn't be 5.5 million. It should probably be like 3 million, something like that. This should be less than it is. Zalen's Ferocity and Zalen's Cruelty, the fire damage and shadow damage, spell damage increases basically. Effect 3 on Zalen's Ferocity it apparently increases the player damage alongside the damage of the primary pet, and does not increase the damage of guardians like Dark Lair, Infernal Overfiend. And when it comes to Zalen's Cruelty, Effect 5 apparently increases the player damage alongside the primary pet's fire damage, which is right here. Does not increase the damage of guardians. Now, the big thing here is that, like, this, with Seeds, with the bug to Flames of Zoroth here as well, all add up to a lot of extra raw player power. Flames of Zoroth. Flames of Zoroth has a similar issue with effects 3 and 4. Final result is this makes the player damage go up by 6% instead of 2% on the whitelisted spells. Primary pet also seems to be benefiting from the effect, but not guardians. So basically, these effects are all giving you more raw power than they should. Zalen's Ferocity, Zalen's Cruelty, Flames of Zoroth, Seeds of Their Demise. And once they fix these aura effects and what it's applying to, this will indeed bring their power down, at least like Blackened Soul's power, and just general class power here in general. So need to watch out for that. Now, the big part of this video, the Wither bugs. This is what I really want to get into. The reason why Wither is doing so much damage now is because Mark of Xavius and Socrathar's Guile are essentially bugged, and you can call them bugged, not flagged properly, from what I understand. So Mark of Xavius is right here. This is for Hellcaller. It's in the actual Hero tree. Socrathar's Guile is in the class tree, right? Now, interestingly enough, so Socrathar's Guile buffs agony damage by 15%. No big deal. Cool. That works for Affliction. All is good. Xavius's, or Mark of Xavius, also increases agony damage for Aff. No big deal. You might be wondering, oh, well, there's no Wither buffs here. How is it affecting Wither? So, if you swap to Destruction here, it is not Agony for these. It is Immolate for both of these, which is basically Wither. It is Wither for both of these. As you can see, it is Immolate, which is Wither. And here, I go to Hellcaller, it is Wither, just straight up Wither. 25%, and I believe 20 for Stalker Guile. Now, the issue here is that, from what I understand now, what I've been told, Blizzard did not flag these buffs to Wither to correspond to a specific spec. So, you can see here, this modifier is to Destro, but from what I understand, it is not modifying just Destro, right? This is Mark of Xavius. Stalker Guile, for example, the demon thing doesn't matter. But for Affliction and Destro, which are the Hellcaller specs, they have indeed flagged Wither here. In a couple spots here. Here's Destro and here's the Aff flag, right? But it's essentially affecting... This is affecting both Destro and Aff. This is both Destro and Aff here as well. Because they didn't flag things. They didn't flag, like, Wither specifically here out of Stalker Guile, which is in the class tree, or Mark of Xavius here, which is in the hero talent tree, for Destro only. Because as Aff, this is of Agony. This is Agony. But what this is doing is essentially, behind the scenes, not in the tooltip, this is buffing this, like this improper flagging is buffing Wither for Affliction across the board. Like, Destro's getting the buffs regardless. It buffs Wither in general, right? But Aff's also getting those buffs from Destro tacked onto Wither for Affliction. So this is essentially, if I swap back to Aff here, Stalker Guile is essentially buffing Agony and also buffing Wither. Doesn't say that, but it is because it's not flagged properly. To a similar extent, this is also buffing Agony and Wither, but it's not flagged properly, so it's not showing that. But it's buffing both Agony and Wither for both of these. Now, that adds up to, I believe, let me see, it is a 20% 25% increase from Stalker Guile to Wither, and 20%, I believe, from Xavius's Gambit to Wither. So you're looking at essentially a 50% buff to Wither damage that we shouldn't have because of the improper flagging. Sims have been run with the proper flagging. I want to show you, this is what Wither did for me in my single target test here, right? 16.5, 11.3 million, whatever, not a big deal. 16.5, it is the number one source by 6%. Here is the sim with working Wither. Lord help me. We're in trouble. There's the working sim. So Affliction has been bugged. Wither's been bugged in a lot of ways over the course of beta and alpha. But with recent tuning, they came in and nerfed Wither, I believe, by 30-ish%. Which makes me inclined to believe they weren't aware of the bugs and the improper flagging of things either. So what needs to happen, Blizz needs to go in and flag these properly so it's not buffing. So basically, Destro abilities aren't buffing Aff Withers, but then buff Wither to where it's at currently, roughly, right, where it's at currently, with the bugs in to compensate, to put Wither back where it is roughly right now. I think, actually, Aff in its current form is pretty solid, tuning-wise. Probably somewhere around where they want things to be, roughly, I would say, when it comes to raid tuning and all that. And, like, honestly, you could maybe buff Wither, I think it's 45% here with both this and this being bugged. You can probably buff Wither, like fix these, buff Wither by 30-ish%, and it's buff, like I said, buff Unstable Affliction, buff Oblivion, fix Blackened Soul, probably buff Blackened Soul as well to compensate for the, improper flagging there, and maybe some general buffs also to make up for the random like extra class damage through other bugged abilities like Zalen's Ferocity and Zalen's Cruelty, or just turn the knob a bit here too, make it like 4% instead of 2, right? These are here to be tuning knobs in a sense. You can crank them up 2% to 5 to 4 to 6, whatever you want. But this is a really big bug, and when they fix this, it's going to obliterate Wither, and it's going to make it basically worse than Agony, about the same as UA. So either, like I said, we need to like fix these bugs now, and then either buff Wither a lot to compensate back to where it is currently, I'd say roughly tuning wise, or you can buff it a bit to be, maybe like 12%, but buff UA, buff other abilities, buff things to get Aff where it's at currently. I think it's buff Wither back to where it is. Playing with Wither in this form feels pretty good. But in its current form, it is definitely going to be an interesting few weeks, because if this is fixed, we're going to lose a lot of damage if they don't buff things, honestly. So at the same time, you could just make this buff Wither as well, to change it from Agony to Wither. And sort of like, I guess, offset the actual effect, right? Because buffing Agony is sort of whatever. It buffs Wither for Destruction. Make it buff Wither for Aff 2. There's ways to do it regardless, but we need to flag things properly, buff Blackened Soul to offset the 30% buff or issue with that effect, and then look at Wither, because honestly, it's going to be a bumpy road for Aff if this is not fixed. Aff, I've seen sims, I'm pretty sure Aff's the lowest by about 100k with the working Wither fix. So thanks for watching, guys. It wraps it up. Hopefully with this video, and obviously if you have feedback from others, we can get some, I guess, buffs to Wither and things again. Some buffs just in general to Aff. Because Wither has been carrying Affliction a lot over the course of Alpha and Beta, and it sort of makes sense as to how it is now. Now, I'm assuming Blizz was possibly unaware of these bugs because they nerfed Wither, which makes sense, but I mean, I would assume you want to fix the bugs for nerf Wither, you know, for tuning, all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that they're now out there aware of these bugs, they can be fixed, flagged properly for the appropriate spec, and then buff Wither back to where it's at currently, because in its current form, Aff actually feels pretty good, but I'm pretty worried if we don't highlight these bugs and things early on, they're going to get fixed at some point, and Aff's going to suck when it gets destroyed with Wither damage and all that. So we'll see where it goes, but if you guys want any weak horrors add-ons to the video, like I said, links to Twitch and Discord down below. You can get it for free. At the same time, before we end the video, a huge shout out to my patrons for all support on Patreon. You know, like always, thank you a million times. I greatly appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here, as well as down below in the description. And the War Within Beta spreadsheet for Warlock, heads up, is indeed live on Patreon for the Tier 3 Battleguard rank or higher, if you're interested in that. We have a few weeks until the expansion comes around, but I will say that, I mean, technically we have about 3 weeks until the expansion launches. We have essentially 5 for the raid opens, and then 6 for Mythic. So there's still time, but I'm hoping that these changes, the bug fixes and also some little changes here and there, like the Infirmity Vital Taint one, might come into play, because if they do, and they get it right, this version of Aff's going to be really fun. But if they don't fix the bugs or fix them too late and don't buff us to compensate, Aff's going to be bad again. So hopefully they can. I have confidence, and we will see where it goes. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, hit the like and sub below. Helps out a ton, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.